What's shameful about the genocide happening in Gaza is that it's not just anyone doing the damage, but it's Israel. If any nation has a long history of experiencing this level of trauma, it's them. Every year, Jews celebrate the Passover by reading from the Torah, which expresses the trauma that their ancestors experienced while they were slaves in Egypt. The problem that I'm having here is that the history of Israel as a nation and as a people experiencing the level of trauma that involves extermination, slavery, and apartheid is well documented. Another problem that I'm having here is that Netanyahu, in order to justify the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, he calls the Palestinians the Amalekites. And if you don't know who the Amalekites were, they were the descendants of Esau, who at the time when he was alive was Israel's brother, and so their family. And this is how Israel deals with their family. Before Israel ever became a nation, he had 14 sons, and the second to the youngest was named Joseph. And the 12 eldest tried to unalive him, but they were unsuccessful, so they sold him into slavery. You see, this is how from the beginning Israel dealt with family, by trying to unalive them. You see, another problem that I'm having here is physics. Yeah, physics. Because what you put out is what you get back. Joseph, instead of spending his years as a slave, he became a ruling governor until the day that he died. And Israel went into Egypt and became slaves for the next 400 years. So after 400 years, this new generation of Jews departs Egypt. But they had never experienced freedom and they were born into slavery. So they had a slavery mentality. Their culture, their way of life, their whole entire ethos revolved around a slavery mentality. The problem with the slavery mentality is that it's punitive. It's a zero-sum game. In order for me to be successful, I have to take away from your success, even if it involves unaliving you. That new generation of Jews with the slavery mentality who had never experienced freedom march over into Palestine and slaughter their cousins, the Amalekites. They slaughter men, women, children, and even the animals. And what's even more psychotic is that they claim that God told them to do it. Yes, God told you to go and commit a genocide because there's not enough room for the both of you. And that, my friends, is the definition of a slavery mentality. And to compound the psychosis, Christians also believe this narrative to be true. And that's why it's so easy for Christians to align themselves with this genocide. Well, God did it before, he must be doing it again. For the next couple of thousands of years, Israel never finds peace in Palestine because of the perpetual corruption. Babylon of Chaldea, which is the modern-day Iraq, destroys their temple, unalives hundreds of thousands of Jews, and marches the remnant to Babylon, where they become slaves, again, for the next 70 years. And after 70 years, they're permitted to go back to Palestine to rebuild their temple, because they apologized or learned their lesson. But not so fast. Babylon is conquered by Xerxes of Persia. Therefore, Israel is annexed by the Persians. Israel remained slaves to the Persians until Alexander the Great conquered the Persians. After some time, the Greeks are conquered by the Romans while simultaneously colonizing Palestine, including Israel. Now, the destruction of Israel and of Jerusalem by the Romans has to be one of the saddest stories in the history of the Jews. During Israel's apartheid, there was a certain terrorist organization called the Sicarii that were committing acts of terror all throughout Palestine against the Romans and against the Jewish leadership. The Sicarii went underground because Rome was on their heels. They blended themselves with the civilians in Jerusalem during the Passover feast. Now, if you know anything about ancient Jerusalem during the Passover feast, Jews from all over the world will pilgrimage to Jerusalem to celebrate the feast. So Jerusalem will be packed. And the Romans decide they're going to besiege Jerusalem during the Passover feast. So Jerusalem is besieged. Jews and proselytes from all over the world are packed into the city. No food or water is getting in for 3.5 years. For 3.5 years, Jews were held hostage by the Sicarii and being unalived, at the same time perishing from a famine. Things got so bad for the Jews that they were eating animal feces, animal urine. People were finding leather shoelaces and eating that. Oh, and a woman ate her baby. Bodies were so plenty that you couldn't even see the ground that you were walking on. The smell was so bad that even the Roman soldiers felt bad for them. At the end of the 3.5 years, Rome burned down their city and burn down their temple. Trauma begets trauma, and misery loves company.